The regressed S-rank hunter decided to destroy the guild. Dojin looked down at the hand gripping his arm. Yunxia did not let go.
Saying you're the only one who can see it isn't enough.
I know.
Dojin turned away from the passage leading deeper inside. He opened the bag containing the recovered measuring equipment. He took out one of the 4 devices, set it on the floor, and switched it on. The folded sensor panels extended to either side.
This device reacts to nearby mana. Everyone watch the screen.
The candidates gathered close. A motionless white line sat in the center of the display. Dojin looked toward the inner wall. A faint rescue signal was passing through several walls. Each time it went through a relay embedded in a wall, its direction shifted slightly. The signal had already been sent from deeper inside.
One rescue signal is going to pass through 3 relays in the walls, one after another. The device will react once each time.
Dojin pointed to the left wall.
The first one will come after a count of 4 from the left.
Someone quietly began counting. 1, 2, 3, 4. Beep. A blue light came on in the device's left sensor panel. The white line on the screen spiked briefly as well. This time, Dojin pointed at the floor.
The next one will come after 7 from below.
The candidates counted together. The instant they said 7, an alert sounded from the bottom of the device. Beep. That made 2. Finally, Dojin pointed to the right side of the passage ahead.
After 5 from the right.
This time, no one looked at Dojin. Every eye was fixed on the measuring device. The 5th number was spoken. Beep. The right sensor panel lit up. All 3 had occurred in the exact order Dojin had predicted. A brief silence followed. Xia was the first to speak.
Did you see where the signal was going ahead of time?
I didn't see where it was going. I read the direction it was already traveling.
Dojin pointed to the 3 spikes remaining on the screen.
A single rescue signal passed through 3 relays. I don't know anything until someone presses the button.
You don't know why they sent the signal either?
No, I can't read minds.
The candidate beside them uncrossed his arms. Then this still doesn't prove there's a person in there. The button might have malfunctioned while stuck down.
That's why we need to check one more thing.
Dojin picked up the device and went to the floor near the entrance. The dirt in the middle had been churned up where they had entered, but traces left by someone who had passed through earlier remained near the wall. Dojin lowered the mana lamp and shone it across the ground.
Here.
3 trails of footprints appeared on the floor. One ran close along the wall. The other 2 continued side by side into the passage. The footprints were different sizes, but every soul had left the same tread pattern. One candidate placed his own shoe beside them. It's the same tread as ours, but the size and position are different.
These are the candidate boots issued today.
Dojin pointed beside the faintest footprints. A long scrape showed where the toe had dragged across the floor. A few steps later, it was joined by signs that something else had been dragged.
One of them couldn't walk properly from this point on.
So 3 people came in before us, and one of them was injured?
That's as much as the tracks can confirm.
Just then, a new signal appeared on the measuring device's screen. One of the candidates pressed the receive button beneath the display. The unprocessed signal played through the speaker. Beep, beep, beep.
2 short, 1 long. That's the signal from a portable rescue beacon.
The 3 sounds they had heard earlier were alerts triggered when the signal passed through each relay. The 3 tones they heard now were a single transmission from the rescue beacon itself. Everyone watched the screen. A moment later, the same 3 tones came through again. Beep, beep, beep.
It doesn't repeat automatically, does it?
At Xia's question, a candidate who remembered their safety training nodded. No, it only transmits once each time the button is pressed. Hearing it again means someone pressed the button again. Dojin looked down the inner passage.
Someone is still sending rescue signals.
This time, no one immediately argued. Xia went over to the return device. She checked its darkened core and pressed the button. There was no response. Another candidate raised his radio. Supervisor, respond. We've confirmed a rescue signal from personnel not on the roster. Only Static answered. He called twice more with the same result. Meanwhile, a piece of stone fell from the wall beside the entrance. The cracks around the hole the monster had burst from earlier spread even farther. Waiting here until the return device came back online was not a safe option either.
Let's go.
At Dojin's words, Xia shook her head.
Don't make another decision on your own.
We've confirmed that someone is alive.
I'm not saying we shouldn't rescue them.
Xia turned to the other candidates.
I'm saying we should decide together how far we'll go and when we'll turn back. If the situation changes, we decide together then too.
Dojin looked at each candidate in turn.
All right.
The 6 of them synchronized their watches. They would devote 40 minutes to the rescue. At 10 o'clock, they would turn back for the entrance, whether they had found anyone or not. If the passage suffered a major collapse before then, They would stop immediately and all decide again whether to withdraw. Even if the return device came back online, no one would run back alone. They would gather and make the decision together. Sia stated the final condition.
No one gets left alone. If anyone is injured, at least 2 people stay with them.
The candidates agreed one after another. Dojin nodded as well. All 6 moved deeper inside together. Dojin led the way, reading the traces. Sia followed directly behind him with her spear. The other 4 divided up the measuring equipment and mana lamps, watching both sides and the rear. They reached the first fork. Dojin looked left. In his previous life, that route had been open. The walls had held until just before the collapse, and almost no monsters had emerged from it.
We'll go left.
He started forward. But he had not taken even 10 steps before he had to stop. The entire passage had collapsed. Stones fallen from the ceiling and shattered pillars completely blocked the way. There was not even enough room for one person to crawl through. Dojin checked the remaining traces of mana. The rescue signal did not continue beyond the collapsed wall. It was different from what he remembered. It was not only the gate's collapse time that had changed, its internal structure was already changing as well. Why did you choose this way? The question came from behind him. Dojin did not pretend to keep examining the collapse path.
I was wrong.
The candidate's expressions hardened.
I didn't have enough grounds for that decision. We'll go back and find another route.
You made it sound like you were certain.
That was my mistake too.
Dojin was the first to turn around. 2 minutes had passed by the time they finished checking the collapse and returned to the fork. Sia carried a mana lamp close to the wall. She held her palm in front of a crack.
There's air coming through here.
It was the narrow passage on the right. Another candidate crouched in front of it and examined the floor. There are tracks leading deeper inside. They aren't human. A few strands of black fur and sharp claw marks remained on the floor. It looked like a route the monsters inside the walls used often. Then isn't this path dangerous? Look over here. Another candidate illuminated the middle of the passage. The walls on both sides are cracked, but the floor isn't as bad. At least it doesn't look like the ground will give way beneath us immediately. The breeze meant the path was not blocked. The monster tracks posed a danger, but the floor was more solid than on the other route. Dojin placed a hand against the wall. The rescue signal was rising from below and to the right. The monster's mana was in the same passage, but it was still some distance away.
The rescue signal is definitely coming from this direction. Monsters are closing in as well.
How close are they?
I don't know the exact distance. I can only see the direction.
Sia pointed down the right passage.
I agree we should go this way.
The others nodded in turn. Dojin took the lead. Whenever he stopped, the other 5 stopped with him. Sia checked the cracks in the walls, while the other candidates examined the claw marks and fractures in the floor. After about 10 minutes, they found blood. A red stain the size of a palm marked the base of the wall. It had not dried completely. From that point on, the drag marks grew deeper. Sia brought her fingers close to the blood, then checked only its smell.
It isn't old.
They also found part of a broken identification tag on the floor. The section bearing the name had shattered and was gone. All that remained was the marking identifying its owner as a candidate who was not on the official roster. Someone really had sent them inside first. But they still did not know why. Dojin placed the piece of the tag in his bag.
We'll take this as evidence.
They continued cautiously for another 12 minutes. Then the display on the measuring device jumped violently. Beep, beep, beep. The rescue signal was stronger than before. A fist-sized relay was attached to the wall. It was one of the devices the rescue signal had passed through earlier. And it was not alone. More were mounted at regular intervals along the passage. The deeper they went, the stronger the rescue signal became. Dojin slowed. Mana was moving inside the walls as well. At first, there was one stream. Soon, 2 more appeared. The flows had originated in different places, but each turned toward the relays.
Stop.
The other 5 stopped immediately. Sia adjusted her grip on her spear.
Are they coming?
At least 3 are moving inside the walls.
Dojin looked at the measuring device. Each time the rescue signal sounded, the monster's movements accelerated slightly.
I think the monsters are following the signal.
One candidate reached for the relay's power switch. Turning it off might slow them down, but then they won't be able to receive the rescue signal outside, right?
Correct. But from here on, there are blood drops and drag marks to follow. We're also close enough that I can see the signal before it passes through a relay.
Sia checked the time.
We have 16 minutes until the time we agreed to turn back.
The signal originates farther inside. I don't know the exact distance.
One of the candidates spoke. Then let's go another 5 minutes. We'll turn off every relay we pass, and if we lose the tracks or the signal, we turn back immediately. Sia looked around at the others.
Agreed?
The 4 candidates answered in turn. Dojin nodded last. The candidates switched off the relay. The sound from the measuring device weakened, but the rescue signal from deeper inside remained. The group picked up the pace. The drag marks and blood drops continued in the same direction. They found 2 more relays, then a third. After confirming the signal's direction, they switched each one off. Just then, a fresh rescue signal came from deeper inside. 2 relays they had not yet turned off transmitted the same signal in succession. They were close enough that the sounds from the measuring device nearly overlapped. Beep, beep, beep. Beep, beep, beep. The movement inside the walls increased as well. The passage widened ahead. When they shone their mana lamps forward, collapsed structures emerged from the darkness. There was someone beneath them. A man in a candidate's protective suit was propped against the wall with his upper body raised. One leg was pinned beneath a massive piece of debris. Stones he had pushed aside, while trying to free himself, lay scattered across the floor. He was alive. The man saw the light and shielded his eyes with one arm. Sia started to run toward him.
Wait.
Dojin looked at the surrounding walls. 1, 2, 3. As he counted, new flows of mana continued to appear. The left wall above the ceiling, behind the collapsed structures. Multiple monsters were converging on this place at once. The candidates heard them too. Claws scraped against stone inside the walls. The sound was coming from more than one place. Dojin spoke quietly.
They're swarming us.
2 of them would have to help the injured man, while the rest covered the walls. The debris pinning his leg was too large for one person to lift. At that moment, the injured man raised his head. Even when he saw the group rushing toward him, he did not beg them to save him. Instead, he urgently pointed at the relays still lit on the inner wall.
Turn those off before you help me. They're calling the monsters.